What's up, guys? 3-1 day yesterday. I definitely enjoyed that. We had the two college basketball plays both got there, including Florida Gulf Coast winning outright as a 17-point underdog. That was definitely fun. That was awesome. Even though I'm not really a fan of that team, I wasn't really a fan of Dunk City back in the day. Kind of annoyed me, but they had a nice outright win there. I don't think they were really trailing even at all in the entire second half, and they pulled it off, won outright, and the refs tried to delay the ending of the game there, saying there was some time left on the clock and whatever. It was stupid. Fans were getting antsy, but they finally were able to rush the court when the game finally did end, and we had a nice hit on a pretty big money line underdog there, as well as the spread hitting on that. Obviously, Hofstra covered. They never really looked like they were going to win the game, but they were kind of just hanging around most of the games. So that worked out pretty well. What else did I even have? I don't even remember what else I was on. The hockey game was a loss, but I don't think it was as bad a loss as the score looks, even though Tampa was just down like right out of the gate, but they cut it to 2-1. It was 2-1 in the second period at one point. Tampa had way more shots and won the face-off percentage. So I don't know. I don't think they got outplayed as much as the score makes it look, at least, even though maybe you could say some of those shots were like desperation because they were down 2 goals for a while. They were down more than that towards the end of the game. Yeah, but they were winning the shot battle for like the whole game pretty much. So I don't know. It's just kind of the way it is, the way it falls. Sometimes you lose on like the goaltender performance and the defense not blocking enough shots and things like that. So Tampa Bay not really known for their defense. So that pretty unfortunate. Rangers also a very good team. So, and then what was the other game that I even won yesterday? How do I not even remember? What else did I win? Oh, Indiana Pacers. The NBA seemed like it was a little bit of a minefield yesterday. I think I was only right on about like half of my NBA leans there, but yeah, Indiana Pacers got there fairly easily, so that was good. Congratulations, by the way, to the Detroit Pistons who won a game and ended their record-setting loss streak finally, beating the Toronto Raptors, who are also not very good, but the Raptors were definitely in a bad spot, but both of the teams were in a bad spot. They were both coming off close calls against the Celtics. It's just that Toronto's had been the previous night, so they had no rest, no turnaround time. At least Detroit had 1 day of rest, so Detroit was able to get there, and they almost blew it. Detroit was winning by like 20 with like 5 minutes left, I think, and they still almost didn't win. Oh my God, Detroit Pistons. And the bowl situation is just a mess, man. Everybody's going to be saying, well, Florida State proved that they don't belong here. I don't think that's true. I don't think Florida State, excuse me. I don't think Florida State is one of the top 4 teams of college football, but I do think they're like probably top 6, maybe. I had them power rated higher than Texas and Washington, who I don't think are top 4 teams, really. I think that Ohio State and Georgia both are. Alabama and Michigan both are, I would say, in the ratings that I have, the ratings that I use as well. But Florida State, they obviously did not show up. They had the most opt-outs out of any team in the bowl season this year. 23 players wound up opting out of that game. I think they were just playing with like backups of backups pretty much. They obviously were maybe the least motivated team on the entire bowl slate, and Georgia had a lot of their starters there, and yeah, they took them out later in the game, obviously, because that's what you do, but still, like, Georgia, also a very good team. I think that in a normal situation, those two teams, if they had matched up, and I guess if Jordan Travis was there, probably would have been like Georgia, maybe around an 8-point favorite, something like that. So bowl situations are not really indicative of anything. You can't glean like how good a team is from any single game, but certainly not from a bowl. So that's the lesson that we can take away from that. But these bowl games, man, it just sucks to have all these really bad games just because teams are not motivated. Let's move to today's slate. I have my NFL video up with my 3 NFL plays, and the market still looks good on all 3 of them. I would say Miami Dolphins still sitting at a 3.5-point dog with 70% of the tickets and 69% of the cash on the Ravens. So we're definitely getting the public action there. It looks like the cash discrepancy is still on the side of the Dolphins. The Indianapolis Colts, hopefully you got there a little bit earlier. I was able to get in at a 3 before it ticked up to 3.5. They are up to a 4-point favorite now with 60% of the tickets and 58% of the cash on the Raiders, who look like they've become a pretty square public underdog there. Colts have reverse line movement, pushing the line up on them, and the cash discrepancy on the Colts. So I am on that one. I like that one as well. And what else we got? What's the other game I'm on is, the New Orleans Saints. I was sitting around to see if it would get to a 3. I don't think it will. So I will be on the Saints at 2.5. Buccaneers are also the public team with 62% of the tickets and 57% of the cash. So also cash discrepancy on the Saints there. And I think the fact that I don't even think the number ever even hit 3, I think that's indicative of something as well. The books are telling you something. It's like they're almost begging you to take the Buccaneers there. Like, I think that's the only way to look at that. It looks way too easy to take the Buccaneers there and lay less than a field goal. And then I don't know if there's anything else to comment on with the NFL slate here. Jacksonville Jaguars are down from what looked like an opener of a 9-point favorite, but I think it was actually like around 7 or 6.5 or something. They're down to a 4-point favorite. So I don't know if that means that Trevor Lawrence is actually not playing. They're finally actually giving into the fact that he's injured. I don't know what's going on there. Their backup is CJ Beathard. I will not be getting involved in that game. I'd mentioned that situationally, it seemed like the lean would be to the Jaguars there, but like in my pick'em pools that have the Jaguars around like a 6.5 or 7, I probably cannot be on the Jaguars side. I don't know what's going on there, but it does look like the Panthers do have the cash discrepancy there, and they're the anti-public underdog, at least. So I don't know. Some real tough reads there. And just there are a lot of teams that have switched quarterbacks now as well. Not surprising. I think the Washington Commanders are sticking with Jacoby Brissett, but they are playing the 49ers, so good luck with that, I guess. Broncos, I had mentioned, I didn't even remember who their backup quarterback who was going to come in there was, but it's Jarrett Stidham. So he's in there instead of Russell Wilson. Not sure what is going through the Broncos' mind there. And the Vikings, I guess, think that Nick Mullins is too turnover prone, and they're going with Jaron Hall. So a lot of weird situations, a lot of stuff that's like difficult to handicap here. And I don't even know who is quarterbacking for the Titans or the Texans in that game, to be honest. I don't know if the Titans are going to have Will Levis back. I don't know if it's going to be Ryan Tannehill. I have no idea what's going on there. Texans, the line seems like it's maybe indicating that Stroud is coming back, but I really have no idea. It's up to 4.5 right now. I honestly don't know what's going on in like half of these games at this point, really. So, but I'm not on these games. So there you go. And Seahawks, I believe, will have Geno Smith in there because he played last week. So the quarterback situations there. And the way that game ended last night on the Dallas-Detroit one was definitely weird as well. People are definitely talking about that. Seems like there's some weird stuff going on with the reffing where Detroit, it seemed like they tried to have two. This is on the 2-point conversion that basically determined the game. They make the 2-point conversion, they win. They don't make it, they lose. They initially had made the first attempt, but it was a throw to a lineman who looked like he had checked in as eligible, but it looked like they were trying to check in 2 linemen as eligible. And I'm not sure that you can do that. I think you can only have 1. I'm not sure about that. Or maybe it depends on what the formation is. It looked like the guy who had actually caught it was the one who actually did check in, and the other one didn't. But then because they were both linemen, and I think one of them did not have like an eligible receiver. The one who didn't check in then didn't have an eligible receiver to his left, so that would then make an illegal formation. So there's a lot of weirdness going on there. Yeah, there might be something going on with the reffing there. Refs trying to help the Dallas Cowboys out there, but also, I don't know. I think either way you look at that play, I think it was either an ineligible receiver catching the ball, which I guess wasn't the case because I guess he didn't need check in. But if that was the case, then I think it was actually an ineligible formation, and that actually probably should have been the penalty, which it's all just stupid to have like a game end on a penalty like that, although that would be the rule in that case. I do think it was an illegal formation. Excuse me. And then once they got backed up 5, I was shocked that Dan Campbell didn't just kick the extra point at that point, backed up further and send it to overtime. But I don't know. He's kind of insane. So wanted to win it right there, but I don't know, man. You probably should kick it and live to fight in overtime there because you have the momentum at that point at least. So that was a very strange game. Moving to, excuse me, sorry. Still getting over this illness, man. to today's slate. Holy crap. The most interesting games on the college basketball slate today, I think, are in the Pac-12. I will comment on Arizona State and California quickly. I think Cal probably would be the right side here, but they're up from 1 to 3.5. And it does look suspicious because Cal has the way worse record. So why are they laying like 3.5, almost on the verge of 4 here, 3.5 with juice? Ken Pom actually has this line at Arizona State being a 1-point favorite on the road at Cal and has Arizona State being the better team. I don't know if there are injuries or what's going on here, which is why I'm just staying away because the line just doesn't look right. But the fact that the line is where it is, like the books aren't just like throwing away money there. So there's something going on there. Possibly more than the fact that I think Arizona State's not in a very good spot. They just pulled off a mild upset of Stanford as like a 5.5-point underdog there. That was a pretty nice win at Stanford there. Now they have to play their second straight road game. Both of these games coming after the holiday break. Playing Stanford and Cal within like a span of 3 days or whatever. Not the easiest thing to do. And they have Utah up next in their home opener. So it's possible they're looking ahead to that because Utah is tied with them in the standings or basically like right ahead of them, I guess, in the Pac-12. Utah, definitely the better of those two teams, but might be looking ahead to Utah. So it's possible they would overlook Cal, who's like near the bottom of the Pac-12 here after coming off a decent upset win over Stanford there. So those are kind of my feelings on that. It's just the line being so out of sync with what KenPom has. There's got to be something going on there. Injuries on the Arizona State side, maybe. Really not sure what the deal is there. But the game that I'm actually going to be on is going to be one of the other Pac-12 games, which is that I'm going to be taking Washington State. And what are they at right now? Washington State is up to an 8-point underdog. So I don't see the percentages on this. So Colorado's up from 7.5 to 8. I like the spot for Washington State here, even though I think KenPom might have this at around 9. So it's pushing it a little bit. And I think the number's going up maybe because the numbers guys use KenPom a lot. And maybe their power ratings are similar to that. And they think Colorado should be a little bit more heavily favored than this. Maybe you could wait on this and get a little bit of a better number on this too. Maybe I should. I don't know. But I'll be on Washington State somewhere in the vicinity of 8. I think the spot calls for this. Colorado, they're on a huge win streak, man. And the holiday break did not end their momentum. They came out of the break and they beat Washington, which is a pretty big win, although Colorado was actually a bigger favorite than what they won by. So you might say, well, maybe that will like focus Colorado a little bit because Washington kind of put a scare on them and they were winning towards the end of the game. I think that's maybe true to some extent, but Colorado, I mean, that's still a fairly decent win over Washington there. And then coming up next, they got Arizona up on the 4th, man. So this could be a look ahead for Colorado there. With Arizona coming up next, that's a big game for Colorado. That would be a game where Colorado, they kind of want to prove themselves. They're currently tied in the standings with Arizona. They're going to want to show up in that game, and that they want to make that a battle of like two of the top teams in the conference. Really, Colorado kind of wants to be seen as one of the better teams in this conference at this point. So it's possible they overlook Washington State a little bit here. And that Washington win was also pretty big because I believe it was the conference home opener for them as well. So that was pretty big. So now this is kind of a sandwich spot with Washington State coming in here. Washington State being about a similar size underdog here. It looks like 8.5 might be where the line is right now. Washington State coming in. One of the reasons I like Washington State here, they're coming off a total embarrassment. They went into Utah, they're playing the Utah-Colorado like leg here to start out conference play. That's not the easiest thing to do. You have to go into elevation. That Utah game was their first true road game of the season, and it was having to go into elevation. So that was a tough spot for them to have to go into. And I think it was coming out of the holiday break too, which maybe hurt like their momentum because they had at least won their last game before going into the holiday break against Boise. Coming out of it, they got smacked by Utah, man. Although Utah is a pretty good team this year. They lost by 22 points, 80-58. That's just an embarrassing loss. So I think you're going to want to turn it around after that. And now you've played that one road game, so you might be more used to playing on the road in this elevation. You're staying on the road in elevation for this game against Colorado. Colorado's got a bigger game than Washington State up next, so I think it sets up decently for a Washington State bounce back performance here to play a bit better in this one, and for Colorado to might play a little bit worse and maybe being a little bit of a sandwich here. And looking ahead a little bit to the Arizona game that's coming up in a few days. So I'm on Washington State. I'll probably be on, I don't know, I might be able to get plus 8.5 now, I guess. So that's what I will do there. Over in the NBA, there are two games that I like here. I just don't know if I can get there with one of them, and I'm already on the other one. So we'll see what happens with these. But the one game that I do like that I'm not actually on at this point, it looks like the line might be getting a little bit out of our control, and the books might be over-adjusting a little bit because it's a back-to-back. That would be to fade the Los Angeles Lakers. Excuse me, the Lakers are in a really bad spot, actually. They're playing a third game in 4 days, and it is a back-to-back. All the games are in different cities. The back-to-backs are both on the road. They played Minnesota to the wire last night at Minnesota. Took them pretty much right to the wire, gave them all they could handle last night. Now they're coming off that. They're on a back-to-back, and they have to go down to New Orleans. And then after that, they have a little bit of a break, and they get Miami, who everybody knows is still one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. So it's possible they might overlook New Orleans a little bit here, and they have no time off coming into this game. It's going to be tough to bounce back, get right back off the mat after that big performance against Minnesota there. New Orleans, they have 2 days off, and in their last game, they beat Utah at home, but it was not a great performance out of them. They didn't even cover the 8.5. They did win by 7, but they were also they were winning that game for most of it, I think, and then kind of let the whole lead slip away. Utah actually came back and like tied the game or something, or got really close late in the game and kind of put a little bit of a scare into New Orleans. Maybe New Orleans might have had one eye looking ahead to this, although New Orleans was off that bad total blown lead to Memphis, Memphis just seems to make these absolutely outrageous comebacks against New Orleans, unfortunately for me, because I was on New Orleans in that one. But I think this is a decent spot for New Orleans. It's just that now it's up from 5.5 to 6.5 on this. Do we really want to lay that much? I don't know. It's definitely a bad spot for the Lakers, though. I think it kind of has a sandwich look to it a bit, and the Pelicans might be in a spot where they might refocus a little bit. I think they should win this game and probably cover. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get on this game, though. The game that I'm actually going to be on looks like the market is totally against me, but I like the situation here, and I am going to be on the Brooklyn Nets at, I don't know, what can I get here? +8, maybe, something like that. Let me see, 8 or 8.5. Yeah, +8. It looks like we can get here at the moment. Could say that it's that, even though it looks like the Nets have 61% of the tickets on them, but the cash is evenly split at 50%. I'm not sure. We might see that shift a bit moving into tonight, because I don't see how the public is going to be on the Nets here rather than the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think people are going to look at this, and why would they want to have anything to do with the Nets here, who have a below 500 record, and Oklahoma City has a great record. And what's Oklahoma City off of? 2 nights ago, they just went into Denver and absolutely wrecked Denver. And now they're off of a stretch where they played, well, they've going back, well, I don't know how far I want to go back in their schedule here, but they've played a stretch of games where they've just been playing a bunch of like up games in a row. They're on a 3-game win streak where they wrecked Minnesota by 23 points at home. Then they didn't really suffer like a sandwich spot, which I thought might be a sandwich spot against the New York Knicks. They were still able to win by 9. Then they just went into Denver, and they just beat Denver in Denver by 26 points, man. They look unstoppable right now. Now they come back home out of elevation, and they get to face the Brooklyn Nets. Are they going to be totally focused on the Nets when also up in 2 days they have the Boston Celtics? I think this is a major sandwich spot, man. You just went into Denver, wrecked Denver, and now you have the lowly Brooklyn Nets coming into your place with Boston up a couple days from now. That's got sandwich written all over it, man. That's a sandwich spot. Brooklyn's coming in. What did Brooklyn do in their last game? They lost to the Washington Wizards. I mean, come on, man. Like, that was coming off playing Milwaukee, yeah, but they did get blown out by Milwaukee, but they did not, they were not able to bounce back against the Wizards. That was also 2 days ago, starting the road trip. Maybe they had one eye looking ahead to this. That game was at least sandwiched between Milwaukee and Oklahoma City, even though they did get blown out by Milwaukee. Now I think they can be focused on this game, though. I think it's a bounce back spot. You lose to the Wizards, man, that's a pretty embarrassing loss for you. Now that I think they can turn it around a little bit, going to Oklahoma City. They played poorly a bunch of games in a row now. They almost lost to Detroit kind of the game before Milwaukee. Maybe they were looking ahead to Milwaukee, but then they got drilled by Milwaukee the very next night. Went into Washington, not the best spot, and actually dropped the game. Now I think it's the spot where they can turn around and actually focus, whereas Oklahoma City is in a spot where I think they might lack focus and be feeling really like high and mighty on themselves after that monster blowout win of the Nuggets. Oklahoma City has beaten the Nuggets twice recently, but the other one was a 1-point win, and they did not suffer a letdown after that, though. Coming back home, they really wrecked the Grizzlies, so that maybe gives me a little bit of a concern, but I think trust the process, trust the spot here. I think the market indicators right now are probably not indicating what actually might go on in this game here, so I do like the Brooklyn Nets here. There's a chance I might actually jump on the Pelicans, but I'm not totally sure yet because I do like that one. That one almost meets my criteria. I don't know. Should I do it? I mean, the line looks like a little bit crazy, though, a little bit off. Like I wish I could get a number that's a little bit less on the Pelicans there, but we can get 6.5 on it. I don't know. I have to think about that, but I don't know. I won't make it an official play, though. How about that? And then going to the NHL to finish this off, I got one play in the NHL here. I do like Anaheim in the NHL. I just don't want to take like a huge money. I don't know, man. I'd have to take like a big money line on Anaheim at like somewhere in the plus 180 range, maybe, or something like that. Or lay a price to take the puck line. You could take the plus 1.5 puck line and lay like minus 135 or something on it, which I don't really want to do. But I think Edmonton is in a bad spot. They just won in a shootout last night at the LA Kings. Now they go to Anaheim off of that with no time off. Pretty big win over the Kings, and they have Philadelphia up next. Philadelphia, I mean, Eastern Conference team, but they do at least have a decent record. Anaheim does not. So I think this could be a quick like letdown spot with no rest for Edmonton here. So I don't like the spot for Edmonton. So I would lean to Anaheim here. Edmonton has 75% of the tickets, 70% of the cash. They're already down from a minus 240 money line to minus 212, which is kind of unfortunate because you might have been able to take the puck line earlier and get a better price on that. But the cash discrepancy and the line movement is definitely indicating on Anaheim here. And I think it's a letdown spot for Edmonton at the very least here. If it was actually a sandwich, I might actually totally jump on it and be on it. The game that I'm actually going to be on, though, is going to be on the New York Islanders. And I will mention that I guess Winnipeg and Minnesota, I guess, are kind of in a zigzag. They played last night in Winnipeg, and Winnipeg won, and now it's flipping to the other location, going to Minnesota. So Minnesota might be in like a quick revenge spot there, but it would be a home and home. I think it's stronger when the road team wins the first game, comes into a team's house and beats them in their own house, and then that team gets to an exact quick revenge in the other team's house. I think that's a little bit stronger, but I guess you could lean Minnesota in that one just because they are the team in the quick revenge spot there, at least coming back home. But Winnipeg is up from minus 105 to minus 114 as a road favorite right now on the money line with 87% of the cash on them and 82% of the tickets on the Minnesota side. So it looks like the cash discrepancy is heavily on Winnipeg too. There's just something weird about it. I don't want to do it. The zigzag thing alone isn't really something that's going to get me on a game. There has to be like a little bit more than that to put me on it. The New York Islanders is what I'm actually going to be on here. Pittsburgh is down from minus 125 to minus 120 as a home favorite. 79% of the tickets, but 90% of the cash on the Islanders. So it is early. I'm not sure that the public is definitely going to be on the Islanders like this, but they do have a record that I think looks a little bit better than Pittsburgh's does, but they do have the cash discrepancy on them. This is a quick revenge spot that I do think matters. Even though the Islanders did beat the Washington Capitals in between that, the Capitals have not been playing that well recently. They were hot for a little while, but that was actually a revenge spot for the Islanders, who had lost in overtime to Washington 9 days prior to that. So does that mean these guys are like revenge warriors? I don't know. I don't love necessarily being on a team that's off of a 5-1 win, but they do have a day off. And I think this Pittsburgh game is big because Pittsburgh just came into their house 4 days ago on the 27th and embarrassed them completely and beat them 7-0. So now I think it's a spot where the Islanders are really going to want to exact revenge. You beat us 7-0 in your house. We're going to come into your house and try to do the same to you. I think that's a pretty big motivating factor. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, is on a back-to-back. They're on the back of a back-to-back. They did have a couple days off before that, after that Islanders game. They had 2 days off, whereas the Islanders had 1 day off, played again, and then had yesterday off. And Pittsburgh played yesterday, so they're in a back-to-back. They came home from that Islander blowout win, and they beat St. Louis. So I mentioned yesterday, St. Louis was in a really bad spot coming into that game because they just played a tough game against the Avalanche after a pretty tough game against the Stars as well. St. Louis, and then St. Louis had to go one game out on the road to Pittsburgh, and then had to come back home and face Vancouver. So that was a really difficult spot. I think the line was just too inflated on Pittsburgh there, but I liked the side on Pittsburgh quite a bit there. Pittsburgh did do it. They won, but maybe that looks a little bit better than it was just because St. Louis was in such a bad spot there. And now Pittsburgh is going to run into New York here where, again, like I said, man, the Islanders, they're going to be looking for that quick revenge there. They know what Pittsburgh just did to them. And Pittsburgh, yeah, man, I just think it's like a pure like revenge spot. I think revenge doesn't matter as much when it's revenge that's that quick for something that happened like a couple days ago and it was a 7-0 loss on your own ice. I think that is a pretty big motivating factor. So I'm on it. I'm on the New York Islanders. Plus, what did I grab here? Plus 110. So let's do it, man. In addition to my NFL plays today, Miami Dolphins plus 3.5, New Orleans Saints plus 2.5, and Indianapolis Colts -3, which I think are all in the 1:00 p.m. slate here today in the NFL. I am on Washington State. We'll say, I guess, plus 8.5 against Colorado. New York Islanders plus 110. Washington State in college basketball, excuse me. New York Islanders plus 110 in hockey, and the Brooklyn Nets plus 8 in the NBA, and a strong lean at the very least to the New Orleans Pelicans in basketball as well, even though it would be -6.5. I don't know about that, but let's get it done, man. Let's do it. Enjoy the day. Let's win some more money, man. We're on at least 6 plays here today, so hopefully we can get it done. Let's try to get it done. I'm Toad. Once again, peace out, man. Enjoy the Sunday. Enjoy New Year's Eve and Happy New Year's. Peace.